Hello, my name is Arm. I am the founder of Panzer Brick Labs. We're a company that produces 1/45th scale World War II military kits. And this year to Brick Fair, I've brought with me my entire vehicle collection.
And there's a huge number of vehicles here, so it's really impressive to see how many different builds you've done.
Right. I started way back in 2018, and I've been going strong ever since.
Very nice. So take us through kind of the research process when you've got a new vehicle you're making in mind. How does that work?
So whenever I start building a new vehicle, I start with getting inspired. So movies, TV shows, video games, all that stuff. It gets me thinking about what my next project is going to be. So when I decide on what my next project is going to be, I start doing research on that project. I start looking at where this tank served, how many of them were made, who made them, what's special about them, and when I find enough information, I start the build process.
Okay. Right. Yeah. So then, once you've got that information, you've got the build process. What is it like, kind of getting parts for each build and kind of figuring out the blueprint and the plan?
So over the years, I have a repertoire of parts that I most commonly use. The challenge is getting the resources to. I would say the challenge is from the blueprints, right? How I'm going to tackle certain parts of the model that are challenging to recreate in Lego. So I can give you an example right here. Let's say one of my most challenging projects that I overtook was the Crusader tank. I'll put it right here. So the Crusader was a World War II British tank used in North Africa. The most challenging part looking at it in real life is the turret. It has a very hexagonal turret, something that's very difficult to recreate in Lego. So when I start designing with the trickiest parts. So I came up with some concepts for the turret. I experimented with slopes, I experimented with using tiles, angles, and until I come up with something that I'm happy with, how I know I'm going to deal with the challenge of building that model. When I come up with it, then I start my prototyping process. So the turret was something I made, and then as a proof of concept, and then I start with the prototype. So I roughly start modeling the hull, the angles, how it's going to look, what kind of pieces, all the connections are floating around, nothing's quite cemented yet. And then when I complete my prototype, I like how it looks, I go back and iterate on it again and finalize the model, make it sturdy, finalize my connections, change something up, and get it production ready.
Yeah. There you go. So how many vehicles are you usually working on at one time? Are there kind of a lot of different projects you have going on?
At one time, I'll be working on maybe 2-3 projects.
Okay.
It ebbs and flows, whatever I feel like I'm working on that day. It's very difficult to force perfection. You know, I have much of an artist's mindset. If I feel like working on something, I know I'm not going to stop until it's perfect. Right.
Now, obviously we see kind of trends with the color scheme, a lot of gray in here, but some of these have these really interesting kind of camo patterns on them. So talk about your approach to sort of color and figuring out some of those different kind of color schemes.
Right. So when I do my research before I start building, I take a look at what possible color schemes can closely match the vehicles that were painted as such in real life. For example, some of the German tanks later in the war, past 1943 and 1944, had this tricolor, almost ambush-like camo. So the closest colors that I found worked were the reddish brown, the dark green, and the tan. Of course, you can change it slightly, like for tan, you can use dark tan, somewhere that closely resembles what the real model could have looked like with the real paint scheme. And then with a good part availability too, I build the model in one solid color, then I enter it in a digital building software, and then I am able to change the camo by just painting over the bricks digitally. So I'm not disassembling, reassembling. The painting becomes easy, and I'm able to change a lot with it in a very short amount of time to perfect the camo.
Yep. One of the tanks that stands out here is this brown one. What is that from?
So this actually leads me to one of my favorite vehicles in my collection. It's the Panzer IV. It comes from a TV show called Girls in Panzer. It's actually what got me into building and designing these small-scale vehicles. So it's a personal vehicle from my collection that paints an homage to where I started, to what my inspiration was.
What are some more of your favorites here, or maybe some that were kind of at a particular design challenge that was one of the more kind of difficult parts to overcome?
The most interesting build, I think, is the one right next to it. It is a very interesting German prototype vehicle. It is the, sorry, one second. It is the Neubau Fahrzeug.
Tough names.
It's a very tough name. But this one is the most interesting to me because the suspension uses bucket handles. Something very unconventional that I didn't really think of until I built this thing. So going back to the design process, right? I started building that, designing that with a concept in mind. I wanted to tackle the suspension because I knew that that was the most difficult part. So after I came up with some tiny module, I started building the other things that were really tough, like the turret, the smaller turrets that can all rotate, right? When I figured out how to do that, I pieced it all together. I mocked up what roughly it should look like, and then it just became iterating it until it became a nice solid piece of, plastic that won't fall apart on you.
Yeah.
Right?
One of the really cool things here at Brick Fair is seeing the number of builds that have Panzer Brick Labs vehicles in them. So how do you kind of collaborate with military builders that are wanting to maybe use some of your vehicles in some of the builds?
How do I collaborate them?
Yeah. How do you work with mock builders that maybe want to use your vehicles or have them in their builds?
So at Brick Fair here, we're a very tight-knit community in the military section. When I post my work online on my Instagram, Panzer Brick Labs 1944, people take a liking to it. They say, hey, this is a really good scale. The small scale that matches the height of a minifigure would fit perfect in my mock, where the giant vehicle in a 1/35th scale would be eating too much of it, right? So they reach out to me and they say, hey, do you sell these as kits? Do you sell these as, commissions? And I say, hey, yeah, we can definitely get something for your Brick Fair. What are you building? And I'll talk to them and cater to their needs. If they're building something, for example, Bastogne over there, I'll say, hey, we have a collection of late war 1944 German ambush camo tanks that you could use there. Or I have, hey, a collection of US and British armor that saw action close to Bastogne.
Yeah.
So we try to cater to your needs, and if we have something that hasn't been designed, we always take requests too.
These designs are fantastic. So for people who want to see more, where are you most active online? Where can they check you out?
So any new developments are on my Instagram, Panzer Brick Labs _1944. Anything that has reached a production stage, anything that has reached a kit stage, can be found on my website, www.panzerbricklabs.com. Most active over there on the website and the Instagram, and of course we're looking to go to more conventions where we can properly showcase our vehicles, how sturdy they are, how detailed they are, and hopefully, you'll see our vision as well.
Yeah. Well, great work here. Thank you so much for taking us through these designs and giving us more kind of background into how you develop the kits here. I appreciate it.
Of course, thank you.